But the network is not particularly strong, so maybe after some time, when I'm presenting, I would, if you permit me, I will turn it off. But I'll always put it on again.
Okay. All right, we can begin now.
I'm trying to share my screen now.
Oh, okay.
So if you permit me, I just put off the video so I can go on. Okay, I think I can take it. I'll take it over.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to listen to Peter now tell us about computer software agency and the bubble effect. A case from Epistemic Injustice is from the University of Ibadan in Nigeria. Take it away.
Okay, let me begin by thanking the organizers, that's Toby, Kathleen, and Professor Veli. As you read the title there, the paper is essentially, I'm just trying to make a case for epistemic justice, looking at the processes in computer software, specifically internet search engines. The aim there, the case I make, I'm just trying to make a case for that we'll begin to look at how computer software, but specifically internet search engines, how they operate. Maybe we can begin to look at it from the point of view of how they incarnate epistemic injustice. What I'm trying to say here is that if we look at it, the exclusion of certain data or information in the processes of these search engines sometimes results in what do we call epistemic injustice. Just a bit of clarifications. What I've said about computer software agency, it's about internet search engines, and again, which includes their capacity to process search requests. We're very much used to how we open various search engines, for instance, Google, Bing, and all of that. Then you type in the keywords and you get information about what you're searching. And then in terms of the bubble effect, I'm looking at it from the consequences for belief formation, which arises from personalized search results. These two, if you like, concepts or notions, they are present in my title, as you can see there, computer software agency and the bubble effect. Okay, so the background of this, from the presentations as I followed these 2 days, much has been said about how the internet, including search engines, can explore complex data or information. And when such explorations are done, what you get machine-generated explanation in large sizes of information based on the request. So there's very little, but there's very little that we know in terms of how these software technologies, these search engines, how they process the information. There is very much little that we know, particularly in terms of the technology. But all we just see is that there is a large set of data or information that we are flooded with. Now, the way these search engines work, we can begin to look at them as implicating certain concerns. Like you see there, Professor Boaz Miller and Reckon, they have done quite a substantial work or significant work in this regard. The concerns they implicate range from political to epistemological to ethical and ontological. So aside the technological concern of not knowing how the computer or the software engine generates this information, beyond that, we can begin to look at how certain other concerns are raised. And so I quoted Miller there and Rickard that the selection of a particular subset of web pages and their presentation in one order rather than another embodies and reflects a particular set of value judgment. And of course, from the point of view of philosophy or understanding value judgment, we can begin to see that you have several values, and what value gets to play out in a particular set of judgments can be viewed from the point of view of, say, political interest or ethical interest, and so on and so forth. Now, of these concerns, the epistemic dimension has to do with biased or incomplete information, especially if it is thought to be unbiased or complete. And so what I noted from this is that beliefs are formed on the basis of information that we are able to access. Information serves as some kind of stimuli for how we form beliefs in terms of how we interrogate or engage such information. And so we can begin to guess if this is the case, that information that we get or that we access has a lot of role to play in terms of the beliefs we form, how we form these beliefs. Then we can begin to guess what happens with beliefs formed from biased or incomplete information. Now, although internet search engines as software agents are immensely useful, there's no doubt about this. So in as much as I'm focusing on how biases and incomplete information that may arise from how certain values play in the information we get or the feedback we get from searches we put into search engines, I do not want to underplay the fact that the internet software or search engines have been very useful. They produce multiple instances. So even though they are useful, they produce multiple instances of biases. And these have been looked at, these forms of biases have been looked at in the literature. Now, I'm emphasizing the point of that in the literature, what has been done, what has been mentioned over and over again, research significantly, is that internet search engines, in terms of the sort of information that they produce from searches users make, they result in biases. So, for instance, if you say Lynch there talked about prioritized false or misleading information in search results. Miller and Rickard and then Simpson talk about that generates filter bubbles that lead to confirmation bias due to personalized ranking of search results. And then Miller and Rickard again talk about the fact that these search results could suggest auto-completed search terms that may nudge one towards a wrong path of inquiry. So apart from these emphasis on the biases and incompleteness of information, which is more like a general discourse, looks at information gotten through search engines from a general perspective, there is the turn to this epistemic perspective, where what has been said has to do with the nature of justification of beliefs formed from data from the internet. In this particular work, which was very useful to me by Miller and Rickard, the point was to examine how we go beyond the sort of information, how users can begin to talk about justification of the beliefs that are formed from the data gotten from the internet. And so Heersmink also talk about virtue-based epistemological consideration of how to use the internet. This set of literature turned to an epistemic consideration of the data or information that we get from the internet. So Shadbolt there too again talks about the question of whether personalized search with regards to the use of the internet is an epistemic boon or burden. And then the question of epistemic trust with respect to search engines. But then in my engagement with the literature, I began to notice this sort of something that may have been overlooked, although that's explicitly, although implicitly, when you talk about biases, incompleteness of information, and in terms of how users make use of this information, also in the context of how epistemically we can begin to talk about justice, well-formed beliefs from data gotten, there is already this insinuation of what I consider to be the gap. That is, that will reality begins to incarnate what I would call epistemic justice, or as we understand what epistemic justice is about. So there is little attention to the nexus of personalized search results and epistemic injustice. I notice a twist, however. So the twist with respect to my gap is, though personalized search is intended to spare us users from sieving through a large set of data or information, there may be in certain instances how this the computer helps us to do this, the search engine helps us to do this. There may be in certain instances the generation of concerns of epistemic injustice. So the search engine is designed to help us, designed to see through large set of data and give us what is supposedly assumed to be what we need for the kind of information we're seeking. But I see that whole process, that whole, if you like, what you call it, maybe aid or help in sieving through, as perhaps there is a possibility that concerns of epistemic justice will begin to arise. Much of this in the later presentation. So the software biases in terms of the challenge is that it may be well the case that this is what I've just explained, that the web technologies have benefits, such as giving us easier access to more information than ever before. But the question is not whether we're epistemically better off with these search engines than without them. No doubt about that. To a very large extent, we are better off than we're better off with them than if they were not there. So that is not a matter for debate. The question is rather whether and to what extent we'll be better off without the information exclusion. Okay, so in narrowing down, in sieving for us, there is the exclusion of certain information. Okay, and this exclusion is on the workings of the filter bubble than with them. So my question is, are we better off with this kind of exclusion of certain data or information, which works on the idea of the filter bubble? Are we better off? So put differently, the question is, how does the process that works with filter bubbles in delivering personalized search results incarnate an instance of epistemic justice? That for me is my task in what I'm trying to do here. And so I don't think it's necessary to look at Parisa's work on filter bubble. Essentially, we noted that the internet search engines use personalized algorithms to evaluate and stratify output responses to searches. And then what search engines do is that they do this by adjusting to users' beliefs and attitude. So based on use of these search engines over time, the way the search engine is designed is that it's able to sieve or discern users' beliefs and attitudes. And so it leads to a creation of personalized search bubble. And that is how I try to represent it pictorially there. Now, understanding the epistemic implication of personalized search bubble is key to my argument. That is how I read personalized search results as creating an instance of epistemic injustice. It's based essentially on this whole the idea of personalized search bubble. But before I finally present how I read epistemic injustice here, is again, let me quickly look at what epistemic justice is. So from Fricka, is effectively epistemic kind of injustice in which someone is wrong specifically in their capacity as a knower. So that point of being wrong, specifically in their capacity as a knower from Africa, is important to me too. So the user on the average essentially is assumed to have a certain capacity as a knower. So how is the wrong done to this user who has a capacity as a knower? In the other statement there on the slide, I look at other presentation in terms of epistemic justice in the literature. And then Weiskopf presents, proposes three extra conditions aside what Fricka had done. Fricka's presentation was essentially on looking at epistemic justice from the point of view of the disadvantage condition and the prejudice condition. But Weiskopf adds the stakeholder condition, the epistemic condition, and the social justice condition. For much of time, let me just quickly go on and take up the way I understand epistemic injustice. Now, epistemic injustice for me in this context is that the bubble effect generates an instance of epistemic justice in that in internet search engines algorithm systematically excludes certain information on the basis of personalized search results. So what I'm saying here is that I'm more interested in looking at those instances where search engines sort of exclude certain information, okay, that nudges us towards forming certain beliefs. An instance I try to use here, is the experience of the 2015 general election in Nigeria. I'm not familiar with that. So maybe if I give a description, it will help us get at what I'm trying to say. Before 2015, the media, both traditional media and social media, internet searches and all of that, was being flooded. If you may not know well, in Nigeria, there are two big parties. So the opposition party then, which is now the ruling party now, began to generate some kind of information, okay, generate certain what I would call propaganda. Let me put it that way. Began to talk about how the extant government, the present government as at that time, was corrupt. So it was pushing its own agenda on the basis of the existing government being corrupt. It was flooding the social media, traditional media with billions of naira, billions of money being taken away, this and phone. So in this instance, I look at a user who goes online to search for information about relating to issues around the general elections of 2015 and all of that. Prior to the election, let's say the user is a voter, and then begins to seek for information. Now, given the algorithm of personalized search, most likely the information you will get will become will be much more in line with this whole propaganda, this whole dominant view, as I put it there, the dominant view or the dominant voice of the existing government being corrupt, why they need to go, why this place needs to be changed. So on the basis of this, there is the possibility of forming beliefs along a particular line. So that's why I say there that about search engine processes, where personalized search result nudges us towards certain parts of belief. Now, these parts of belief are such that only certain voices or information become dominant. And then that dominant voice or certain voice or the information inflect on the beliefs we form. So the way I look at epistemic justice is a bridge between how dominant voices on the internet or search engines or how we get information from the internet inflect on the beliefs we form. So it is that range, it is that connection between these voices, this dominant voice, and how it influences on the beliefs we form. This is, for me, an instance of epistemic justice because the capacity of the knower to freely, as it were, to autonomously make decisions, have available the possibilities of knowing of the possibilities of which those beliefs should be formed and not theirs. So what I say here is that but quickly, there is a rejoinder I consider, that is epistemic paternalism, which I noted earlier, somewhere here, about that perhaps being able, helping the user to sieve through information may lead to some kind of aid cognitively. So search engines algorithm helps us, saves us the stress of going through a whole lot of information or data when we do such searches. But in some regard, this can become what you may call epistemic paternalism. And if we go back to Irving Goldman, Goldman suggests that certain formations of information control, this is the way he considered epistemic paternalism, that it is to protect us from what he called cognitive failures. So epistemic paternalism involves interfering with agents without their consent for their own epistemic good. So it's intended to promote true belief, the good of the user of such information. But it is precisely about this interference without an agent's consent, which for me inflects on the agent's choice to form a certain belief that she would not have formed if such interference were not there. So it goes back to that question, whether we are better off with the kind of information exclusion we get in personalized results, or whether we are not better off. So thank you for listening. I'll leave it there and take it up for questions. Thank you very much.